Hello everybody, Travis Berardi alongside Hayden Gray back here at OH Report World Headquarters in Mansfield, where today we break down the high school football passing, rushing, and receiving leaders through week 6. So let's get right into it, Hayden. Let's start off with the passing leaders, where Marshall Shepard pretty much has number 1 locked up.
Yeah, Marshall Shepard, he's 742 yards in front of second place, Hayden Shadone. So Marshall Shepard looks like he could sit out a few games and still probably be at the top of our list come the end of the regular season. 30 passing touchdowns, that's 13 higher than the next closest guy. 70% completion rate, so Marshall Shepard looks like he's going to be a clear lock to lead this list. Go down a little bit midway in 6th place, we have East Knox Peyton Lester. That's someone who's going to need to have a good game Friday, traveling over to Northmoor with a big matchup there. He has 15 touchdowns, almost 1,300 yards on the year, 65% completion rate, so a solid year so far for Peyton Lester. And finally, rounding off our list, number 10, Brock Hill. He's a whopping 1 yard away from 1,000. He's at 999, 7 touchdowns, 60% completion rate. So look for him to have another game to eclipse 1,000 against Ashland this week.
Yeah, and Brock Hill holding on by, I believe, 20 yards from 11th place. So good list here. Victor Skoog continuing to move up as well. He broke into the top 10 last week. He's now up to 7th place. Moving on to the receiving leaders, where it just seems like Andre Hill and Blaine Bowman keep flip-flopping that number 1 spot, and I mean, as they should, because they're 2 key playmakers for the Shelby Whippets behind Marshall Shepard.
Yeah, Andre Hill and Blaine Bowman have obviously helped Marshall accumulate this huge stat line of numbers. Andre Hill with 891 yards, 9 touchdowns coming off a big game last week. Blaine Bowman, 830 yards, 13 touchdowns. Both guys putting in great work for Shelby. You go down the list a little bit. Jerron Filiator for Winford making his way onto our list this week. He has almost half of Kobe Allen's passing yards. He's received almost half of those. So he's a clear playmaker for Winford. Look for him to make some movement up this list. And then rounding it off, we have Miles Bradley. He's been on the connecting end of Brock Hill. 435 yards, 4 touchdowns, 17.4 yards per reception. A solid companion for Brock Hill. Look for him to be someone else that has another big game against Ashland this week.
And it's just crazy that both Shelby receivers combined over 1,700 yards receiving, and from 1 to 10, there's a 400-yard difference. That's phenomenal for the Whippets to continue to roll after that tough loss to Bellevue a few weeks ago. Now let's move on to the rushing leaders, where big mover from the bottom, Max Lauer from Northmoor. He was in 12th place coming into last week, but then had a 262-yard rushing performance that you saw live and free on the OH Report. Moves him all the way up to 8th place, but everybody's still trailing Dane Nauman and Lincoln Mollenkopf at the top.
Yeah, as you said, it's great to see Max Lauer getting his way onto this list. Got to see him play last week. He's a beast, plain and simple. He has 796 yards, 10 touchdowns on the season. He'll have to have a big game against East Knox this week if they're going to help Northmoor get a win. But as you said, the top 2 of our list, Dane Nauman from Highland, he continues to just put up video game type numbers. 1,243 rushing yards on the year, 12 touchdowns, 9.6 yards per carry. Whatever Dane wakes up and eats for breakfast, it's working because he's having a phenomenal year. And then, like you said, Colonel Crawford's Lincoln Mollenkopf, 1,130 yards, 20 touchdowns, which is 8 more than our leader, and 10.4 yards a carry. So those are 2 guys, probably also a lock for 1 and 2. We'll see the battle between those 2 by the end of the year, who can achieve that number 1 spot, but those guys have a pretty clear control of this list, Travis.
So those 2 still leading the way, rushing leaders, but you do have 2 guys from the Firelands Conference, and Shea Sparks and Connor Morris from Crestview and Plymouth. They'll be facing each other here in a couple of weeks in that rivalry matchup, and they should be over 1,000 yards by the end of this week. But that'll wrap it up here for your passing, rushing, and receiving leaders through week 6 of the high school football season. Make sure to stick with the OH Report and tune in Friday night, the Friday Night Pigskin at 11:30. We'll have highlights, stats, scores from all around the area, and we'll see how these guys do coming up in week 7. But for now, for Hayden Gray, I'm Travis Berardi saying so long.